what's happening in Israel, I think the reason that it's happening is that it's bringing up one main kind of idea or one main problem, and it stems from a kind of a very, you want to say basic discussion or very kind of Western, let's say Western-based discussion. People start saying, well, what is the problem here with this judicial reform? What does it all go back to? It goes back to the fact that Israel doesn't have a constitution. But it's much deeper than that, right? It's the fact that Israel is not being run according to the Torah. Meaning, Israel couldn't have a Western constitution if it tried. It couldn't formulate, it would not be able to formulate, and it shouldn't formulate a Western style constitution, even one similar to America, which we say is inspired by the Tanakh. It shouldn't do that. The land of Israel is supposed to start going towards Torah. And right now, unfortunately, it's happening. It's being led in that direction by Hashem, by hook or by crook, right? Hashem allowed, meaning despite all these fraudulent elections all over the world with these leftists and broken ballots and broken machines and this and that and the other, some way, somehow, in Israel, in the face of everything, the most right wing, so to speak, you want to say you have issues with them, you want to say they're not doing this and not doing that, you don't want to call them right wing, whatever you want to call them. The most religious, at least on its face, government of Israel has been elected despite everything the leftists have tried to do, right? And we can say we have problems with them, everything they did during COVID and the vaccines, all these things, these are big problems, And frankly, I think that everything that's happening now with these leftists is just Hashem. If you ask me, I think it's just Hashem using these leftists as instruments of kind of kapara. The leftists are not going to succeed. They're just kind of like this annoying kapara, atonement, you want to say, cleaning out that Hashem is using for what these guys did during COVID, or what they did to themselves also, because the religious Zionists bought it hook, line, and sinker. I don't know if any of these guys in the Knesset took the stuff, but for sure the people that voted for them, most of them took the stuff. With that said, now they're going forward with this judicial reform thing. Now they're saying, well, the system that we have in place, listen, you can say, yeah, we can get into the nuts and bolts of what the judicial reform is, right? In terms of, okay, the judges can't appoint themselves, so we're going to have them be appointed by whoever, some legislative person or body or whatever it is. But what it really comes down to is, and the leftists, by the way, are right because they feel it. They feel that when this reform happens, what's going to happen? The Supreme Court is going to stop eventually, not right away. We're going to have to chip away at this. They're going to stop pulling Jews out of their homes in our ancestral homeland, the cradle of Jewish civilization. This is what the leftists are right. They feel it. They know it. They know the demographic is against them. They know that this is what the court is going to stop doing at the very least. If you basically cut the court's balls off, the court becomes useless. Even if you can elect whomever you want. You can elect, I don't know, Kahana to the court, whatever. It's going to be a useless entity, and that's the only entity they have left. They don't have the legislature. They don't have anything. They don't have the prime ministership. They don't have it. All they have is their stupid, shit, the toilet media, their show Eretz Nehederet, SNL, and that's it. And they have the court, and maybe they have the Histadrut. Once in a while they can make strikes, the unions. But this is all they have. They know that. It is not about democracy. They know that the Torah people, they even write it on Twitter, the religious messianics, even Lieberman, this right-wing guy, like you said, even the Russians hate the Arabs, right? They voted for him. They also they think that people like you and I are just like the Arabs, by the way. That's what they think. You come to any Russian, not any, but a lot of these Russian people, they consider like people like you and I the same as the Arabs. The only difference, we're not bombing people, right? But we believe, we have the same kind of troglodyte ideology, okay? So they're afraid of messianism. They're right. We are messianic. Everything we're doing is for Mashiach. Everything we're doing is for the Torah. They're absolutely right, and they're deathly afraid of it. Most of it was what I was trying to tell you. Unfortunately, comes from ignorance. It comes from the media since the late 70s, chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. You never had this before. Meaning, even though the people that founded the state of Israel were anti, you could say they were anti-religion. They were more anti whatever being religious represented. They thought it represented being weak. They thought it represented, they looked at what the rabbis advised people, and what they advised them led people to the gas chambers. So they said, well, it's kind of like they were kind of saying what you're saying. We don't have rabbis anymore. So not only we don't have rabbis, we don't have being religious didn't serve us well, right? So now we're going to shed all of this clothing, this garb. We're going to found a state. We're going to be strong. All the names are going to be based on the Tanakh. It's strength, right? It's all like, we're going to name our kids this and that and the other, all these Tanakh names, and we're going to be Giborim. We're going to be very, very strong, right? And we're just going to take the veneer. The veneer is good, but the mitzvot, I don't know. Did it lead us anywhere? Being like this, being like that, wearing the, having the payas, having a beard, did it lead us anywhere? I don't know. But up until a certain point, at the very least, they respected it. Like the grandparents of these leftists who were protesting at least respected it. When there was morality in the world, 60s and the 70s, everybody in Israel was more or less united. 67, 73 happened. Even in the 80s, late 70s, let's say. You can pretty much say that when Kahana came to Israel, that's when all of this stuff kind of went into high gear. The media started going. The media in America, the Jewish media also, by the way, and some of even the Orthodox community, by the way, and conservative reform, and the media in Israel.
When you say the Jewish media, unfortunately, what it's really called is the
Erev.
anti-Jewish
media. Yeah, the media with Jewish names,
Ginos.
And I'm not talking about the people that run NBC and CBS. I'm talking about like people who run like Jerusalem Post and JTA, Jewish Telegraphic Agency, all these things. Like I'm talking about like for the Jewish community, the forward, the backward, what I call them.
Oh, like people could say that the Jews run the media. Just think about it. Like the biggest media is Rupert Murdoch and Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
And a few others. One of them is, I think Paramount is like Jewish. It's like Sumner or something like that.
Yeah. Sumner Redstone. Yeah. Redstein, whatever. He's I think he passed away, or he's very old. He passed away in 2020. Sumner Redstone, Rothstein. Yeah.
Yeah, he changed it because he didn't want to be associated with the gangster.
Yeah. So he changed to So he changed to Redstone, which is Rod, whatever. Not Rothschild.
Roth means red.
Yeah.
Rothschild means red shield, like the Templar.
Yeah.
Templar red shields.
He ran Viacom. That's what he ran. CBS, Viacom, whatever. And Paramount. Where was I? I don't know. Listen. So at the core of everything is really the fact that, the Torah, it all comes back to the fact that the Torah has to come back to the land of Israel. And some way, somehow, there has to be a conversation with whomever's ready to, I'm not even talking about listen politically. I'm talking about whoever's ready to learn Torah in the secular camp. And there are people who are ready to do that. And again, I think I mentioned to you, it's happening on the musical front, like Yishai Ribo, this musician in Israel. He's a very famous musician in Israel. He's a Baal Tshuva, I think. He's religious. And he's been collaborating with, like, secular and religious musicians have been collaborating. Musicians in the secular world who literally were like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, were like saying horrible things about religious people, horrible things about Judea and Samaria, horrible things across the board, are now collaborating with religious, most of them Baal Tshuva musicians. Like, it's happening on that front, which is interesting. And so I feel like everything that's happening that we see in Israel today is literally from the media. Like the media are just stoking the media, and then a certain segment of the, like Gantz and all these people, Lapid, Gantz, and fermenting all this crap. Lieberman,
Yeah.
Lapid, yeah. So it is an opportunity. I mean, it is an opportunity. It might be a good thing that's happening now. The only thing I really hope it doesn't come to I mean, it already. I've seen some scenes. They've shown some videos of really things coming to a head physically. Some kibbutznik, I don't know, shot his gun into the air at some right wing guys. Somebody threw, like we saw, somebody threw the stone at the. Usually it's lefties, but like, it's getting physical, and I really hope it doesn't get to some fever pitch crescendo in a couple of days, because it would like you said, we said in the beginning, the whole baseless love thing. No, it's abidna, it's haval, like that you have to bash somebody's brains in as you have baseless love for them, for your brother,
Yeah.
Because I listen, I know people, man. I personally know people who started out, they grew up in kibbutzim, in kibbutzes in Israel, and then came to America. A lot of these Israelis, they come to America and they realize they're Jewish, and Chabad finds them, these seculars, and then next thing you know, the guy is like, right wing and religious, or at least right wing. That's what happens. They realize they're Jewish. They see that there's like some Palestinian protest in Times Square. They get attacked, and they're like, "Oh my God, okay, like this is not just a Israel problem. This is like a worldwide anti-Semitism problem." Made by people who it's not about the occupation. Let's put it that way. They realize that, but it takes for them to leave Israel to realize that. So. Yeah, I don't know. It's all coming back to the Torah, I guess. It's all coming back to the fact that Hashem wants people to learn. And if people learn, then they'll know. Like a lot of, even our friend, this Avi Barak guy, he just doesn't know. He literally doesn't know. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know. I sent him a picture of this settlement called Peduel, Western Samaria, where you can see, I'm like, dude, I can see your house from here. You know that, right? I told him that. He didn't respond. I'm like, you realize what would happen if the people that you're defending would get this land, would get this part of the land. You're done. Your apartment is done. So are your friends. He doesn't know. They have no idea. He doesn't know what the Torah says. He doesn't. They don't know. They don't even know why we're there. They just know that we escaped the Holocaust. That it's Israel's a bomb shelter state. We needed where to go. They just know that his parents or grandparents fought for in the army for whatever we have or whatever we're supposed to have, and that we're like treating these people like crap. Supposedly, allegedly, these people aren't and supposedly these people aren't doing anything to provoke that whatsoever. They're just sitting there, smoking their hookah, and listening to their.
That's like it reminds me of that Bill Burr routine, where he's like, he's talking about like hitting women.
Yeah.
He's like, you should never hit a woman, but to act like you guys don't deserve it.
There's no. Yeah, he's like, there's no reason to hit a woman. He's like, there is a reason. You just don't do it.
I'm sure every ass kicking fell out of the sky.
Yeah,
like I'm sure you were just sitting there, like, you were saying, yeah, so I baked you some cookies. Like
yeah. It's like I tell people, I'm like, I even told Avi, I was like, Avi, you think like people in Judea and Samaria wake up? It's called waking up with violence. Like they just wake up and like, I think I'll harass an Arab today for no reason. Like, don't start, nothing will be nothing. But that's not even the point. The point is like, if you have Torah and you know what all of this is about, and you understand, for example, who is Ishmael, who is Asaph, who is Yaakov, what the hell is this whole thing about? What are we doing here even to begin with? Why we didn't settle Madagascar or Uganda or wherever the hell we were supposed to go? Why we went here? Why the Arabs considered people in Tel Aviv to be settlers? Why why the fact that we're even back in the land, any part of the land, is a threat to their religion, to their theology. Like, people literally don't know. They just know that they want to live in, Singapore in the Middle East and be, I don't know, have parades and stuff. That's all they know. Have parades, go to the beach, play matkot, dance around like a fruitcake, I don't know, whatever. Wear a Speedo, grill the fish on the grill,
I don't mind for that to go away.
bounce with boobs, whatever. Pick something out of Zohan. Like, listen, I'm no one to talk. This was, me in 2007 when I came to Israel, 2008. I enjoyed.
The only problem I had was the Speedos. Why?
Yeah. Like,
I didn't see that many Speedos. It's more like the older guys,
Yeah. I don't know. I think at this point Hashem is guiding this whole thing. And people are like, yeah, even the guy who's doing this judicial reform, this Simcha Rothman guy, he's like, we have to do everything, set these laws and those laws. And I'm thinking to myself, religious guy, he lives in a settlement called Pnei Kedem in Judea. It's literally like as settlementy as it gets. Like, really, it started out being like a caravan, one of those, outposts, middle of nowhere. Now it finally got legal status, like recently, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And I'm thinking, like, dude, just say, like, we need to run this country as much Torah-dic as we can. Not a theology, not Iran, but, whatever we can do. Without coercion, by the way, without coercion. Don't force people to keep Shabbat if they don't want to keep it. Don't force them to, eat kosher if they don't want to keep it. But whatever you could do, I'm sure even leftists would be very happy if the bank didn't charge them interest. They'd be very happy. If people didn't gouge, I don't know, whatever. If real estate prices weren't the way they were, if there weren't fees, if this, if that. Literally, just the economic parts of the Torah. If we sat down and actually ran the country that way, why should it be that our cousins have Sharia banking? Dude, they have Sharia banking already for I don't know how many years, for how many decades. You cannot charge interest to another Muslim to another Muslim. What's up? This is legit stuff. This is like international banking rules in all banks in the Middle East. Arab banks and Iran. We can't do this? Does that make us troglodytes if we do? What, I'm just throwing out an idea here. Like, I don't get it.
No, the only way that we can prove ourselves to not be troglodytes is to submit to AI enslavement. Then we'll be very sophisticated, future people.
Then we won't be in a Stone Age. I don't.
Take me to bedrock. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, man, like when I asked you about, and you said that it's not our responsibility to, worry about what these people know or don't know, because at some point it's just kind of like.
I said it's not our responsibility because there's nothing that we can do because of how they are.
That's true.
And the only way to that there can be any potential help is to do the opposite of what's intuitive to us by kind of try to reach out to them and say, let's just have a conversation. No, we have to be more passionate about what is true and just. Okay, and fight them as hard as possible, and then we'll make converts.
So now you have a guy like Avi, with whom we agree on with regards to everything that's been going on with this.
I don't know, Avi, if you're talking to a person who's still willing to talk to you, we're not talking about the same type of people here.
I don't know if he's still willing to talk to me about this. He has his mind made up about who the settlers are and who these, all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you see, so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's an
My friend,
emotional addiction. It's an
can I
emotional
read? Can I
addiction.
read to you something that my friend just wrote to me, or he
Actually,
wrote
I,
really quickly?
yeah, I have
I
to.
mean,
Okay.
he wrote this about what's going on. He's a Russian guy, Baltruva, lives in Jerusalem, married guy. Israel is in an unprecedented tug of war, stretching its political, economic, and military fabric, and this may be a great thing. The Indian poet Tagore wrote that in order for a string to vibrate, you need tension. The tension of opposite and seemingly paradoxical tendencies within an individual personality is what keeps the person balanced and functionally vibrating, all the more so with the tension in societies. The cultural and political tension in Israel, expressed more distinctly here than anywhere else, is strung by the pull between the material genius, dynamism, and cosmopolitanism of the secular and the ideological drive, exceptionalism, and historical momentum of the religious. If reconciled, the combination of these forces would not only bring peace to Israel, but would transform it into a stabilizing center between the material and physical world, and thus perhaps even the linchpin of geopolitics. The Kabbalistic notion known as Shavirat Kelim, breaking of the vessels, teaches that sometimes the contents of a vessel outgrow their container and must break it in order to progress to the next developmental phase, just as a chicken must break its egg. Rav Kook, whose ideology probes every facet of human endeavor, predicted the flow of generations of the modern state of Israel that was declared 13 years after his death. To paraphrase his vision, the ideology driving the modern return to the Jewish homeland represented the egg, combining idealistic vigor with a sense of historic destiny inherited, albeit implicitly, from deeply religious roots. Rav Kook predicted that, pushed by the reality of having to wrest the land from the Muslim tenants and the enmity and warfare that this brings, this egg would break, and the next generation would rebel against the previous one. This new generation represents not only the secular Israelis, but the religious as well, both of whom are rapidly losing faith in the country's political infrastructure. Today's events in Israel portend that the institutions that once bound Israel together simply cannot do so for much longer in their current state. The material holding Israel together will eventually tear, if not in this generation, then in the next, and the egg will break. We must have faith that it will be replaced with something made of stronger fabric, one that will enable our nation to vibrate with the music of history, destiny, and redemption. Very nice. What do you think? Not hopeful? Not
The
hopeful?
whole idea of tension and blah blah blah. We've had a
Well,
lot of
listen,
tension.
we had
Had a
tension,
lot
but
of tension.
but everything has been under the surface for a very long time. You know, all these things, all these animosities, all these things. Not only animosities, but like,
The question is, you know, the idea of like balance of the opposites, right? Of finding like a sweet spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable, but that can exist without the heaviness
Oh yeah,
of the leftist energy right now, which will snap the string. It's too heavy.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's not a healthy kind of tension.
yeah,
Okay. Healthy kind of tension is a discussion. It's an argument,
yeah,
but both people are talking to each other, and they can still, they still have enough respect for each other to have an impact. Okay. When you have no, like there's like zero communication or zero possibility of communication, that's not a good tension. That means there's no one to talk to. There's no more discussion. The
yeah,
tension is off.
yeah,
Okay. So, there's always a way to kind of like, sugarcoat and delude yourself into what's happening. And, let's see it from the good side. And the truth is there is always some kind of good happening, but, in situations like this, it's not perceivable.
yeah.
Okay. So I don't see what's happening now as a good tension. Actually, there is no tension. Like, because again, a real tension is when, you're having a debate. That means one guy speaks, the other guy listens, then the other guy responds, and the first guy listens. And then, people think about what the other person said, they respond, and then it makes an effect. It has an
Yeah.
effect. We affect each other. It's not that. This is like where people, realize, holy shit, there's no one to talk to. We better
Yeah.
form our own echo chamber,
Yeah.
and just try to survive against the other echo chamber.
Yeah.
That's a disaster. That's not tension.
Yeah.
That means we have to kill each other.
Yeah.
So we need a miracle. Okay.
I think, the thing is also, like, I feel like,
by the way, the right, as it is now, is willing to talk, and those other motherfuckers are just so
I know.
gone.
No, but you know what it is also, but like, they are willing to talk. But I feel like if you come to live in Israel, you spend enough time in Israel, you know what you realize? People are like, they don't know how to communicate with each other so well. You know what I mean? Like, they're Israelis. I don't know. It's like they're smart, but they're stupid. Does it make any sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was just saying that. Like,
You ever just spend the day on the streets of Israel?
Yeah,
Really,
it's been a while.
we're like this. We're like the dumbest smart nation on earth.
I don't know. Like my experiences, like even in places like Tel Aviv and stuff like that, everybody
Right.
was really kind of nice and helpful.
They're nice and helpful. What I mean is, like, people assume stuff about each other, again, because of the media, because of whatever it is, and they just don't want to even learn. And by the way, I'm also speaking for Haredim, regarding Haredim as well. And certain people in the the right wing camp, they don't even, like, people in the right wing camp. It's funny, like, Moshe Feiglin,
Yeah.
he's literally the only, in my opinion, the only sensible person in the, whatever you want to call it, Dati Leumi camp. By the way, he was against the vaccine. He's an actual thinker. Like, he literally could tell you how to implement this whole thing, like when to do it, how to do it, how to go about doing it, without literally with inflaming anything and anyone. He could pull this off, just from a you want to call it aesthetic kind of standpoint, or PR standpoint. These people they're not thinkers. Even the people who are like supposed thought leaders in the Dati Leumi world, they're not thinkers. Они неправильно это делают. У них бардак. They don't do things in a calculated manner. The left a little bit more so. The right wing does not. They do not. Like, dude, I have a friend who lives in Beitel, an American guy. He literally had to, like, he formulated a program how to teach young settler kids how to be more PR, like, friendly. They just don't care. They don't care. And you could say, well, why should they care? Who cares? Let's just go, forward and do our thing and whatever it is. No, man.
No, I disagree with you.
Okay.
Because you can't have your cake and eat it too. Let me rephrase that. If you like, I'm going to try to use something which really hits in a weird way, so it can make an impact. Okay. So it could be a little bit vulgar.
Okay.
But this is what Patrice O'Neill said. He goes, if you want to have like a wild girlfriend who really shows you like a good time, then you can't like stop her from dressing like a hoe and walking around and being wild and sexual and stuff like that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's one thing goes with the other. People who are, people who are called the settlers, right? Who live in those areas, they have a certain kind of spirit.
Yeah.
That spirit is, fuck you. I'm going to do what I know is right. I don't care what you think. And so you're going to say, oh, be like that, but then also be really diplomatic and know how to.
No, I'm not saying be diplomatic. I'm not saying be diplomatic. I'm saying that they have to be able to get on camera. Like Arabs, right? When they do something, like, I hate to use this analogy. Okay, Bin Laden, right? He did what he did, and then he wrote a manifesto. What is his ideology? Why is he doing what he's doing? We're not Bin Laden, Has v'Shalom. We're not any of this, but we're doing something. We're pioneering the land.
We don't need a manifesto. We have the Torah.
I know we have the Torah, but these people are not going to go read the Torah.
Pallywood, and the whole way that the Arab terrorists project themselves is they're able to do that because of evil. They
I
are
understand.
evil
I understand
incarnate.
that. I understand that.
And if you're not evil, you can't lie like that. Do you understand?
Yeah,
Like
I get it.
one thing, you see, if you, again,
But I'm not talking about lying. I'm talking about like this guy. He's like, okay, we did this because Americans went on what is it called? Islam says that when a foreigner goes on
bro,
holy soul of Saudi Arabia, we have to
bro,
do
do
this.
you remember? Do you remember your girlfriend like a while ago, long time? You were telling me how you make her laugh, right?
Yeah,
And she liked your shtick, but then when you did the shtick in front of people, she's like, shh, she's like trying to shut you up. You're like,
oh
no, no, no,
yeah,
you can't do
yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
That's what you're doing now to the settler people. You can't. It's not. They're not capable. It's the energy. It's the character. Their character, which enables them to live the way they live, bravely, and in those, um, is it goes against.
I don't want them to not do what they're doing. I want them to keep doing what they're doing. I just want people to tell them them to tell people why they're doing it. That's it. To be able to articulate why. Here's why we're doing this. That's it. You keep doing what you're doing. Don't stop doing it. Just tell
I don't
people
know.
why you're doing it.
When I was there, look, I know it was a long time ago. When I was
Yeah.
there, everybody was able to articulate what they're doing and why they're doing it.
These
Okay,
people cannot today. They can't. They cannot do it. They assume that everybody knows. They assume that everybody understands who they are. And if they don't assume, they say, "Oh, the liberal lefties. There's more. Whatever this and that." And not only liberal lefties. Like they assume that like Russians know what they're doing, who are right wing, who by the way would be their allies if they only knew how to speak to them. They don't even know how to speak to their allies. Their would be allies. That's the thing. You keep doing what you're doing. Just know how to talk. They don't know how to talk. They do not. What the left has over us? The left knows how to talk. They've harnessed language.
that's all they know how to do.
I know that's all the whole we know how to do, but that's not the only thing we know how to do. I mean, what we do is not the only thing. We have to learn how to talk. There's like one guy who can talk. Unfortunately, it's Bibi. And it's we've had about enough of him. Ben Gvir can't talk. He can just scream and look like the caveman that he is. Smotrich, the same thing. Okay, Simcha Rothman, he looks intelligent, half one intelligent. He can talk. He can barely, whatever. He came to America. He gave his speeches in English. Can barely speak English. The only person who could speak English properly and Hebrew properly is Benjamin Netanyahu. Unfortunately, he's the jack of all trades on the right wing side. Like before COVID, I would say then there's no one like Bibi. Literally, there's no one else who could lead the country. Before COVID, and then since COVID, we just need Mashiach. That's who could lead the country.
Look,
But
I want to say something. I want to end off on this. I've allowed you to rant and rant. And rant.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, so much.
No, the last hour was you ranting,
Mr. 80%.
Okay, but the last hour was you.
It was an hour. It was like 20 minutes. It just seems like longer.
20 minutes times 8. Okay, so listen, bro. This is recorded. Okay. So
okay, 40 minutes. Anyway,
like 40 times 6. How about that? 40 times 40.
Okay.
So listen. This whole thing that they're doing with the protest, right? Here's how I see it. I see it as a religious, hopefully, as a religious offering to God, and an appeal to His mercy, like a prayer. It's like a prayer. Like
who's the leftists are doing, or
no, hold on. The right, what they're trying to do with the judicial reform, right?
Yeah.
And the protests and the demonstrations.
Yeah.
I see it as like, God, we know we got to do. We're doing it. That's it. Please come and help us. I don't know if they're conscious of it, but that's what it is, because what they're doing isn't really going to, like, the human action of it isn't going to do anything. Nope. But the gesture to God might. And that's why I say it's a good idea. And to parallel that, here in America, when we go to vote, we know the voting system is effed and there's no real voting. But when
Yeah.
I go to vote and I vote for Trump, I know that it's not going to be counted. I know it's not going to make an impact the way a vote is supposed to, but it is an action it is both an action and a prayer to God.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing we have left.
Yeah.
The forces of evil, right? Whatever you want to call them. Anthroposophists call it Ahriman. Some people want to call it Elon Musk. Me. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other people want to call, the WEF. It's all the
Yeah.
same thing. The Sitra Achra. Okay.
Yeah.
They've taken over. Okay. They positioned themselves like ticks in these strategic places within the brain of the organism.
Yeah.
Okay. And the only thing we have left to do is to communicate to God with our thoughts and our feelings and our actions. Okay. So we have to understand that from now on, we got to go through the motions. We got to do everything we're supposed to do, but you have to understand what it really is. Okay. We're asking God to punch through the prison, to punch through the bars that are surrounding us. And so that's what's going on in Israel, and that's what's going to be going on here. Okay, that's where we are. That's the reality. It is.
Yeah.
Okay, and we could say, thank God we've reached this point, because it was only at this point that anything good could ever happen, because it can only come from God, from some kind of supernatural means. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Something we haven't seen before. Okay. Something completely out of the blue, as they say. All these expressions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's really time for people to understand that only thing you got left is the only thing you ever had in reality, which is appeal to God. Everything else has always been fake, So now the only thing that's real is exposed. Okay, so